All right, back with the WMAY morning news feed, 722, and I had an opportunity to talk with some parents in the past few days and some teachers who are being impacted by the COVID-19 mandates that Governor J.B. Pritzker put in months ago for educators to get the COVID-19 vaccine, or they could face punishment. And that punishment includes suspension. I've talked to teachers that have been fired. If you remember Kingsley Keys, we chatted with him last week after the Springfield School Board decided to fire him for not complying with the COVID-19 vaccine mandates. Here's some of what he had to say.
They're forcing us into medical procedures, and they've changed the time, the frequency, the location, where on your body, how many times.
So, again, these things not necessarily being collectively bargained. So that's just one teacher in our area. But I wanted to get a sense for across the state how this is impacting teachers and education. And it's pretty spread. I don't have an exact number of how many teachers are not complying. I reached out to the Illinois State Board of Education, and they said that they do not track how many teachers across the states are being punished by their local school districts. But they do say that they will investigate school districts that are not enforcing Governor J.B. Pritzker's COVID-19 vaccine mandates. So I reached out to some teachers who were willing to go on record and share some of their thoughts. One of them is a kindergarten teacher out of Meridian School District, Britta Zuko, and she let me know kind of what some of her status is as a teacher and how long she's been on unpaid leave.
So as of October 11th, I was placed on a leave, which was docked pay. And so as of my last paycheck, which was the 15th, that was my last paycheck I'll be getting because now I'm unpaid. So I'm still on an unpaid leave, but I've not been given any deadline. I have been told that if I choose to come back, or if I choose to participate in the testing or get vaccinated, I'll be able to come back and the principal will assign me to a new role in the building. It won't be my kindergarten teaching position.
So similar to what we heard from Kingsley Keys here in Springfield, how he feels that the union was not helpful whatsoever. I asked Ms. Zuko as well about the union's involvement in her case.
So the union did, I did have a meeting with my principal and the union president in our building. And then I also brought with me another union rep in our building because she, I teach with her and I have a good relationship with her. So I brought her for support as well. Basically our union rep just kind of said there's nothing that they could do for me.
So when it comes to these issues of collective bargaining, I mean, they touch on economic issues, how much somebody's going to get paid, maybe how many vacation days, how many professional development days they're allotted. But there was no collective bargaining when it comes to having to be required to get a medical procedure. And that seemed to be something that Ms. Zuko, a teacher out of Meridian Schools, had a pretty big problem with.
It's, probably common knowledge that none of this was part of the contract I signed in order to do my job this year. So this was all kind of thrown at us and required of us really with not even being in our contract at all. So, in my opinion, it was kind of a violation of, my contract. I was contracted to teach kindergarten through this year. And then because I won't comply with this mandate, that position was eliminated. So it's just, I don't know, it seems unfair to me. And no, they have not been. The teachers in my building have been supportive in terms of just reaching out to me and asking how I'm doing and things like that. But overall, the union has basically said there's nothing that they can do for me.
So again, that's Britta Zuko. She is a teacher out of kindergarten at Meridian Schools, and ultimately, she says that the union was not involved in collectively bargaining this, and that's something that Rebecca Harms out of Limestone Middle School in Kankakee, she also said that the union was just not involved in the decisions to require COVID-19 vaccine mandates, at least not necessarily allowing for a vote or back and forth or negotiations with teachers on the ground. Here's Rebecca Harms from Limestone Middle School in Kankakee.
I contacted the union initially and said, what are we doing about this? And and they replied, the union head replied almost immediately that the union will not back us and that I will get fired. And he explained basically, on the first try, the second try, the third try, and then they're going to recommend that you get terminated and that the union was no help. So I immediately left the union, which I should have done years ago, and I knew that, but I just, push came to shove. Well, okay, I'm going to need that money for my own lawyer if that's what happens. And that was a couple weeks before they started enforcing the mandate.
So Rebecca Harms, a orchestra teacher for middle school, she said that there was support from other teachers, and there were people who understood her position and supported her position. But it seems that that kind of support really hasn't been vocalized to the extent that she would like it to be.
So, I mean, the number of people that are against this, but, I can't lose my job. I can't lose my job either. But I don't know, am I being reckless? It's a tough call. Everybody has to make their own decisions, and that's the whole point of it, is making our own decisions. So, and nobody's talking about it. When they first came to me, my principals had come Friday before the suspension began. They came at the end of the day, and one of them made the trek over from one building to the other just to come see me and to clarify that I was not going to comply. And they were very hush-hush about it, didn't want to make a scene. And I was kind of surprised because I don't really care who knows or who doesn't.
So again, that's Rebecca Harms, a orchestra teacher out of Limestone Middle School, sharing some of her experiences with me and how there seemed to be not a lot of open discourse in her school district about people who are not complying with the governor's edicts. And I asked her what her message is to those who did vocalize some support in the beginning, but seem to have not really been available to vocalize support for people making their own decisions.
There are other teachers that I've had support from, and I don't know if this is related. It's not necessarily a message, but there are other teachers that I have that are supportive. Oh yeah. I'm not going to test either. I'm not going to test either. But they didn't have to test yet because something about they after you test positive for COVID, you don't have to test again for 90 days. I don't know if you've come across that yet or not, but so the two other teachers in my district that had told me this was their situation. Oh yeah, we're not going to test either. Oh, but we don't have to until December. So I feel like everyone is waiting for it to affect them, and that would be my message for everybody out there. It's not going to stop until we stop it. And if you keep waiting for it to hit you in the face, who knows how long that will be? This can't continue. It needs to stop now.
So that was a teacher out of Limestone Middle School in Kankakee, Rebecca Harms. Wasn't the only teacher I talked to. I talked to another one, Brenda Pearson, out of East Aurora, who said that it's impacting teachers all across the board, those who are not complying with the governor's COVID-19 mandates. That seems to have not been part of any local collective bargaining, and schools are enforcing this. Schools that get COVID-19 relief dollars, and then they're enforcing these mandates from the Pritzker administration. But teacher Brenda Pearson said that it's obviously going to impact teachers, especially as we get into the holiday season.
It really affects us. We know that, the holidays are coming. We all have teachers that are affected by this, all have issues right now, paying bills probably, making sure everything is covered in the best way they can, and looking for outside employment, some type of income. They're probably all searching just as I was, and hoping that the governor will overturn the mandate and that the school district will allow me to come back to work. But until that comes, I don't know in the future what's going to happen. I'm just kind of taking a wait-and-see approach.
So again, Brenda Pearson out of East Aurora, she talked about the impacts on teachers all across the state that she talks with, but she brought forward a religious exemption to the COVID-19 vaccine that she got filed with her school's HR, but her school's HR said they don't need that because you still have to test if you're not vaccinated. And Pearson raising some concerns about that as well.
They really never said they accepted it or denied it. They just took it. They did accept, they let me give it to them, but they said it would not be needed for testing, so that I would have to continue to test. And the PCR test that they're offering, the rapid test, is also dangerous and proven not effective. And actually the FDA has recalled that test, although they are still wanting us to use that one primarily. They've also allowed us to use the shield test. But the shield test, you have to make an appointment with the people administering that. And the closest one to me is in Joliet, Illinois, which requires teachers to make their appointments and drive on their own time and go and stand in line, and they have to, spit into a tube and wait for the results within 48 hours. And that is just something I really don't want to do. I think that is asking too much. So I refuse that as well.
So these teachers I talked with, they all are refusing the COVID-19 vaccine, but also refusing to test weekly as per the governor's edict. And finally here, Brenda Pearson, her message for everybody out there is pay attention.
Well, I know that this is burdening a lot of teachers who are unvaxxed, and many of them feel there's no other way out other than to weekly test. And I'm sure I would be heartbroken, and I'm sure some of them also are, but they feel that is the only way they're going to be able to continue to feed their families and keep their benefits and their livelihoods. But as for me, I stood up because my freedom is way more important than my livelihood. This is America, the United States of America. We have a Constitution. Americans need to stand up for their freedoms, and if they don't do that, it's going to continue to get worse. So we have to collectively come together, stand up, and say no more. We're not going to allow the government to push us around and force us to do things we don't want to do.
So that's just a collection of some of the teachers I've talked with. I've got a stack of others who've reached out and provided their contact info all across the state. But again, no real picture as to how many teachers across the state out of the 850 different school districts there are in Illinois. As the Illinois State Board of Education says, they don't track the teachers that are being punished for not following the COVID-19 mandates, but they will investigate schools that aren't enforcing those COVID-19 mandates. All right.